All right, let's get back to work on the trail of emails from another perspective. Joined now by senior writer for the Weekly Standard, who thus is forced to sometimes question the sanity of covering those who inhabit the Beltway. Let's welcome Mark Hemingway to MidPoint today. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me back on.
Pleasure. The Hillary Clinton email issue here. What's the groundswell right now in D.C.? Are there people really worried about this, or are they really thinking that this is going to be just another quick blowover that'll be forgotten in the big 24/7 news cycle?
It's hard to say whether or not this is going to, carry over into 2016 in the middle of a presidential campaign at this point in time. But so far, it seems to really have legs. Whenever you have a situation like this that fits into a pre-existing narrative, in this case, that the Clintons are scandal-plagued and that they like to hide things, as this story does, it tends to go a little further than something that comes out of nowhere.
We were just watching a piece of video here, and we're seeing Mrs. Clinton at one of her testimonies here, and she was mouthing the famous words, "What difference does it make?" Is there a feeling that that's going to be eventually the answer that will come out?
Well, it's hard to say, because what the Clinton email scandal really reveals is we don't know what we don't know, in sort of a classic Washington sense. I mean, we now know that for all our Benghazi investigations that we've done, none of we don't know whether they had any. Certainly, the congressional investigators didn't have any access to Hillary Clinton's email, which would be a pretty darn important part of any investigation, you would think. So we could be finding out a lot more on the basis of her emails if these things get subpoenaed, if this story drags out a lot more.
Now, you just brought up Benghazi, and I think is a fair cop to start talking about it here. What new legs do you think that this will now bring? Because this apparently all started back with the Benghazi investigation. There is already a thread there. But where do you think this will now take us with regard to the reopening, or I should say, the reopening of Benghazi?
Well, the D.C. Media establishment has been absolutely shameful in their handling of the Benghazi scandal, which is to say that from the very beginning, they've basically been insinuating that any congressional Republican attempts to investigate it have been overreach, and they've been screaming this over and over and over again. Well, now we know with this Clinton email thing, they can't really use that excuse, because there was a huge component of the investigation that congressional investigators have never seen. And to a large extent, actually, it raises a lot of other questions, because the New York Times report about the Clinton email scandal that initially came out revealed that Clinton had turned over some thousands numbers of emails to the State Department relating to her time as Secretary of State. But it also revealed that Clinton and her own aides got to decide what emails they turned over. And it wasn't just everything from her tenure. They got to pick and choose. So, again, we don't know what they're hiding here. And that means that both the State Department's Benghazi investigation and certainly the Congressional Republican Benghazi investigation are very, very incomplete. And we need to know what's in those emails.
Mark, in the Atlantic magazine, or at theatlantic.com, the headline is Hillary Clinton's contempt for transparency. And I think that speaks to what a lot of people believe. Is there an actual belief in Washington, if you were to talk to people off the record, that indeed Mrs. Clinton has that contempt for transparency, and all time that she has talked about it, she really didn't mean it?
I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. The Clinton shop is notorious for strong-arming press, notorious for threatening people, behind the scenes, if they report bad things about them. In fact, we have Hillary Clinton on film from 2000 saying things like, with all of the investigations have been done against me, why would I do email? So we know from the beginning that I think that this was an attempt to evade scrutiny. I mean, the email server that she hosted at her house for this sort of thing was set up 9 days before she was sworn in. I mean, this was done deliberately to make sure that she had total control over this kind of communication, never mind that this might be in violation of reams of federal law. So I don't think there's any doubt that the Clintons don't have a lot of regard for transparency or the public's need to know.
I got about 60 seconds left. Do you sense any scrambling right now, real quiet scrambling? Because if this connects and the Clinton Foundation issue connects and some of these other things connect, we're not necessarily looking at the knockdown, can't miss Democratic candidate for president.
Well, they do have a lot of breathing room in the sense that there are no other Democratic candidates in the primary, or at least viable Democratic candidates so far. If, say, this scandal were to convince Elizabeth Warren to jump into the race, and all of a sudden Hillary Clinton is being attacked on the stuff from the left, it could be a real problem. But for right now, I think they're kind of a hunker down and let it blow over mode. That said, Philip Raines and some of the other Clintonistas have been really aggressively pushing back. We'll just see whether the media establishment rolls over and takes it. But so far, the media in D.C. seem to agree that this is a real big problem for her.
All right, and former Governor Martin O'Malley is also kind of hanging around there in the wings right now, waiting to see what happens. We know that. Mark, we're all out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on the Weekly Standard Beat. We'll look forward to catching up with you again, Mark.
Thanks again.
All right, take care. The other big story coming out of Washington, Benjamin Netanyahu, the fallout. If Iran already has everything they need to go nuclear, and where simple logic now fits into the future talks, because whether he likes it or not, the president's been put on notice again. It's coming up right here on MidPoint.